Yeah.
'Cause it's dope you say that, because like me and my fellas we don't even talk like that.
Yeah.
Like at all. Like we don't even say none of them words. We
Mhm.
talk about when our feelings are hurt.
Yeah.
But we not like, come on, man. Look, I got a wife and a daughter. I ain't gonna be calling nobody no damn bitch.
Right. Right.
But I want to know, are you saying this? Women, I'm trying to pick my words wisely. Women are okay following the lead if the man is worthy of leading.
Are you talking in a partnership?
In a partnership. In a partnership.
Okay. I think it depends. I think there's absolutely no generalizations you can make. I will say probably 5 days out of the week, I'm the one leading. Yeah. But if there's something that he feels passionately about to need to lead on, like, I'm here for that. Let's have a conversation. It comes down to, in my particular relationship, it comes down to our personality types. Yeah. I'm a very dominant person, and I have a type A personality. Like, I'm very outgoing, and I speak how I feel, and I love conflict. Like, not in a toxic way most of the time, but I really like to like get it all out there. And he's not like that, and I think that's why we work so well. So I think it just depends. But I'm okay with taking a step back once in a while. Yes.
Yeah. See, I love a woman that leads, because I grew up in a household with a dominant woman. So I love a woman that leads. But when it comes down to the ruckus and the shit, please call me first. And yeah, I think that's my own toxic bullshit.
Yeah. No, but I think that's true for my husband too. And I think that because I trust him inherently, that makes me feel secure. But I think that if I didn't trust him, and I didn't have that foundation, and I, like you said, I didn't see the worth, I wouldn't phrase it like that, but if I didn't see that, it would piss me off if he was trying to do that.
And see, I phrase it that way because I think that more men have to hold themselves accountable, right? They have to hold themselves accountable to do the work. Mm-hmm. We all come from some bullshit. Mm-hmm. Believe me, I know look, I went through the mud with this bullshit. But I can't let my bullshit affect them two women in that room right there.
Right.
To a negative degree.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I want to just speak on something real quick that comes from that. And I hope he'd be okay with me saying this, but my dad actually comes from an abusive family. Yeah. And abusive to the extent of like scary. I won't go into too much depth, but just absolutely horror movie style, terrifying. And it's from generations and generations of dads abusing their kids on that side of my family. So my dad and I have had an interesting relationship over the years, but he has done some of the most like globe lifting work that I have ever seen a man do on himself, to not put that trauma onto me and my brother. Like it's been hard, and he's had his steps forward and steps back. But at the end of the day, like, I did not grow up in that abusive type household. And that is because, like you're saying, he was like, it ends with me.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah. It sucks that the person that's going through that had to have gone through that, but it's not, because for me, I actually have found true love. Like, I never really knew true love existed. Like, my wife is I swear to God, I will die for her. Like, if she, like, I be thinking sometimes, like, man, if she wasn't here, what would I do with my life? But like, this is the one person in my whole life that has always shown me unconditional love.
Yeah.
And so I told myself, I said, man, you better go get your shit figured out. Because
Right.
you out here dealing with this abusive, the way my therapist put it, he said, the people in my life had borderline personality disorder.
Mm,
Um, but I dealt with that, right? So I
yeah.
always made excuses for bad behavior. And I said to myself, I'm not finna at all be in no position where I'm gonna put them in any bad place because of me
Yeah.
and what I'm going through. Go get some help. Go talk to
Mhm.
somebody. Go figure that shit out. And
Mhm.
that's hard for men to do, but go do that, because honestly, when you do that, the women in your life or whoever you're dating, whatever your dating specificity is, they're gonna love you more and even harder when you're doing the work. Like my wife tells me all the time, she says, "I thank you for going and you went and got into therapy, you went and got the men's group going, blah 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 blah." She says, "I thank you for doing that because that's not her job."
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
she,
and I think it's so important that you're doing that when your daughter's at such a young age too. Because I think with my dad, it took me getting older and actually experiencing some of the conflict, of having an older kid for him to realize like, oh shit, I have to do something or this is going to go downhill really fast. So I think it's really good that you're doing it early, you're prepping the foundation, and Jelly's not going to grow up with any horrible memories,
right.
that show your progression to get to that place of healing.
But I want to shout out your dad. We got to shout out your dad on that. Like even when you got to an older age and he said, "I look, something ain't right. Let me figure this shit out." That's dope. That's
Yeah.
dope.
Yeah.
That's dope,
Yeah,
man.
he's a pretty dope dude.
And like to all men, man, to all men, we owe it. We owe it to the women in our lives to work on ourselves. I'm sorry for whatever we went through and for whatever bullshit that we had come in our life, but we owe it to the women in our lives to fucking get ourselves some help, because they're gonna be down no matter what. There's probably gonna be a woman out there that's gonna be down with an old toxic ass man, even when he's not doing the right thing, and she's still gonna be down because she sees the potential in him.
Yeah.
You owe that shit, man. Go get some fucking help, man. We can talk to everybody. We can talk to
You owe
anybody.
it to yourself too. It's not just the women in your life. You're gonna feel so much better.
Um, t- Look, bro. I swear to God, when I started going to therapy, I was going down a deep dark hole, and then my wife made me go to therapy, and it was this black man who's still my therapist, and he literally went through the same life that I went through.
Mhm.
And it was just so freeing. I wanted to go 3 times a week.
Right?
You know what I mean? Like, please, let's talk about this shit. Like,
Yeah.
because what you're gonna realize is like what you're going through is not that different than everybody else.
Right.
Everybody is going through some shit right now. Like Selene, what I've learned in doing this podcast is we're all going through shit. Like honestly, I swear to God, I thought your life was peaches and cream. And then when you expose some of the things that you go through in your life, I'm like, damn, I ain't so bad. That we all good. We all together. But
Yeah.
talking to people is like that. You know what I mean? Like it helps us understand like we all going through some shit. We all been traumatized.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's especially pertinent. I hope you don't mind if we kind of jump around a little bit, but it's especially pertinent right now. I mean, not only are we all going through our shit anyway, but look at what we are all collectively experiencing right now.
Yeah.
The whole pandemic, like no matter what space you started from at the beginning of this pandemic back in February, March, like you're below it now. Like that's just the straight up truth.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, that was actually the most sobering moment of everything, is like realizing like we are all at square one right now with the
yeah.
pandemic. So let's just jump into it. Um,
Yeah.
how have you dealt with like mental health coping mechanisms during the pandemic?
Um, it's been interesting for me because I don't know if this is relatable, but I feel like I'm constantly swinging back and forth between a state of panic and feeling like completely numb. Um, so it's been hard. I'm not going to lie. Like, I have coping mechanisms that I've been using, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. Fully honestly, I'm in a pretty, I don't know if it's a unique situation. A lot of people that I'm talking to right now are working from home, straight up. I'm not, and I never have been. And I work with the general public. So I've been, like I said earlier, an essential worker since all of this started. And into work, I've had coworkers test positive. I've had clients test positive. I've had extended family that test positive. So my daughter's currently actually being schooled at home. Wisconsin is great and has been in person schooling this entire time. So my oldest is actually at home right now for 2 weeks because one of her teachers tested positive. So I feel like it's all around me all the time. And some of the things that other people have been struggling with, like the isolated feeling, I feel like I have a little bit less of that because I'm still pretty much going about my regular day. Like, I'm hitting up the gas station, going to work, seeing my clients, coming home. But it's all surrounded by this feeling of like the boogeyman, like all the time. So it's wild. And I can't decide if the anxiety or the depression is more prevalent sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I've had my own personal issues, like obviously mentally with like the pandemic, but I always like bring it back to the fact that like I've actually got to spend a lot of time with my family.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we live in a shotgun house. I don't know if you're like, it's basically like straight back,
Yeah.
right? So we're on top of each other. So me and my wife literally learned to be like, you get on my fucking nerves. Go in the other room.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, but it's all love. But I have really enjoyed that. Like honestly, it was hard when my wife had to go back to work because I was
Yeah.
like, I enjoyed your stinky feet.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we haven't really had that. I mean, I've been out of the house 40 to 50 hours a week since the beginning. So,
Wow.
and I'm also like I've talked about, I'm very close with my mom and my parents too. And I have a baby brother that still lives at home. He's in his final year of high school. And they have been in complete lockdown mode since the beginning. So that's been really hard for me. We usually see them at least twice a month. And we got married at the end of February, and that was the last time that we saw everyone all together. We did like a brief socially distanced visit back in May, and that's the last time my kids saw my parents.
Yeah.
So, and I have a 1.5-year-old, so he's getting kind of to the point where we're getting worried that he's not going to recognize them whenever we do get to see them again. So my like I said, I'm an outgoing person most of the time and a type A personality, and that is really bolstered up by having the people I love around me. And
Right.
obviously I've got my husband, I've got my kids, but being separated from my closest friends and then my family, my parents, has been something that I've never experienced before.